right, so after quite a bit of discussion and a lot of reading and things like that, we have been looking at the way technology was changing. We looked at the inventions, and we've been talking about the fact that this was going to have an effect on the life of all Americans. So, in this chapter, we're going to be looking at the way science and technology was going to be used to actually change urban life. Now, you got to keep in mind, for a long period in American history, right up to the Civil War, we were not an urban society. We were an agricultural society. The vast majority of the people in the United States did not live in cities. They lived on farms or in small towns. While we always have had cities, it's the growth of the cities since the Civil War that has really caused a lot of the changes that have come along in science and technology. So we're going to be looking in this chapter on the way technology, the way science really adapts to what's going on in regards to the world. So all those different inventions, all those different inventors that we talked about, all the changes that had been going around in business and stuff like that, well, we're now going to see how that works out in regards to everyday life for everyday Americans. mentioned two different buildings. Okay. Now the first one we talked about was the Wainwright Building. Now this is in St. Louis, and there's the Wainwright Building. Now it doesn't look that revolutionary to us at this point in time. Let's be honest, all it is a big square or possibly a rectangle. But for the time, to be able to have a building that went that far up into the sky was amazing. And you can see that it has a relatively small footprint as far as the ground goes. But going up, you have, as I've been saying, the sky's the limit. In this case, you built up 10 stories. So on that same plot of ground, you now could have 10 times the businesses or 10 times the people living there or things along those lines. It was the fact that you were no longer limited to how much physical space there was on the ground. Now, because of steel, you could build the internal structure. Because of the elevator, you could charge more because you were up higher instead of having to charge less. This was one of the first skyscrapers built. Another one that is very famous is this one. It's called the Flatiron Building. This one is in New York City. And you can see it's an oddly shaped building. It was actually at the intersection of multiple streets. So the footprint for this one is triangular in nature. And you can see this one is a multi-story building as well. This just goes to show that in New York, for example, at this point in time, land was already at a premium. There was already a very limited amount. And so as a result, they had to build up. Now, the Flatiron Building caused such dismay when it first went up. People were afraid that it was going to fall over. Other people actually tried to sue, saying that winds caused by the odd shape of the building actually caused damage to other buildings and things like that. But in all honesty, these skyscrapers were the way of the future. This was how buildings and city life was going to progress from this time forward. We had the technology to fix the problem of limited space, and we were now beginning to use it in earnest. This was essentially the way of the future.